The hospital was in chaos. A young girl lay unconscious, monitors blaring, doctors shouting that she had less than 3 minutes to live. Her parents cried in despair, powerless to stop the inevitable. Then, out of nowhere, her German Shepherd broke free, storming into the ER. Nurses tried to hold him back, but the dog pushed forward, leaping onto the bed with startling determination. Everyone froze, expecting panic. Instead, he pressed his body against her chest, moving with deliberate force. Within seconds, the monitors flickered and her pulse returned. Gasps filled the room as doctors stared in disbelief. What this dog did next didn't just save her life. It left science itself struggling for answers. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. It started like any other evening. The little girl was playing in the living room, her German Shepherd never far from her side. Then, without warning, she gasped, her small body trembling before collapsing to the floor. Her parents screamed, rushing to her aid, but her lips were already turning pale. The dog barked frantically, circling her body, as if pleading for someone to act fast. Her father scooped her into his arms, racing to the car while her mother dialed emergency services. Every second felt like a lifetime. The shepherd leapt into the back seat, whining and pawing at the girl's leg during the desperate ride. Sirens wailed in the distance, but would they be too late? At the hospital, chaos erupted. Nurses rushed her into the emergency room, monitors lighting up with jagged lines and blaring alarms. Doctors shouted rapid commands, working frantically to stabilize her. "She's fading," one voice cried. The clock on the wall ticked mercilessly, each second pulling her closer to the edge. Her parents stood outside the room, helpless, their hands shaking as tears streamed down their faces. Behind them, the German Shepherd paced, growling softly at the closed doors. He knew the fight wasn't over. Inside the ER, the girl's small body was connected to wires and tubes, machines shrieking with every failing beat. Doctors moved quickly, voices sharp and urgent, but nothing seemed to work. One medic shook his head, whispering to another, "Her organs are shutting down. She has minutes at best." The words hit like a dagger, and the tension in the room grew unbearable. Outside, her parents clung to each other, their sobs echoing through the sterile hallway. Her mother's knees buckled as she cried out, "Please save her." But there was nothing they could do. Every second slipped away, the weight of helplessness crushing them. The German Shepherd pressed his nose against the door, whining, scratching at the cold metal as if he could sense the urgency within. His tail was stiff, his body trembling with frustration. Nurses passing by shook their heads at the dog's desperation, not realizing he was reacting to more than just fear. Back in the room, the head doctor called out, "We've got less than 3 minutes." Sweat rolled down their brows as they tried one last effort, but hope was thinning. The girl's chest rose shallowly, her life dangling by a fragile thread. The hallway outside the ER was thick with tension. The German Shepherd's whines turned into sharp barks echoing through the sterile corridors. His eyes locked on the door that separated him from the girl, his girl, the one he had sworn to protect. When the heart monitor inside gave a long, flat tone, something inside the dog snapped. With a powerful lunge, he shoved against the door. Startled nurses shouted, trying to restrain him, but the shepherd's strength was fueled by desperation. He darted past startled staff, claws skidding against the polished floor, and charged straight into the room where the doctors fought for every second. "Get him out," one doctor yelled, raising his hands to block the animal. But before anyone could act, the dog planted himself at the foot of the bed, his chest heaving, eyes locked on the girl's pale face. The room froze. The shepherd didn't attack or panic, he moved with startling purpose. He climbed onto the bed carefully, pressing his body close to hers, head lowered as if listening. His steady breaths contrasted with the chaos around him, his posture calm yet determined. Doctors exchanged bewildered looks, torn between removing the dog and watching what he would do next. The parents gasped at the doorway, but deep down they understood. This wasn't an intrusion. It was instinct, an act of love breaking through at the final moment. The room seemed to hold its breath. Doctors hovered, unsure whether to pull the German Shepherd away or let him finish what he had come to do. Then, without hesitation, the dog lowered his head and pressed his muzzle firmly against the girl's chest, his body rising and falling in steady rhythm. It wasn't random, it looked deliberate, almost like chest compressions. The lead doctor froze. "Wait, look at the monitor." Gasps echoed as the flat line flickered. A faint beat appeared, weak but unmistakable. The shepherd let out a deep, low whine, pressing harder with his body, his breath sinking in a pattern that seemed impossible for an animal to understand. The girl's fingers twitched. Her shallow chest lifted slightly as if responding to his effort. "She's coming back," a nurse shouted. Chaos erupted as doctors rushed forward, seizing the opening the dog had created. They prepared oxygen, checked vitals, and worked around the shepherd, who refused to move an inch from her side. The heart monitor beeped again, first slow, then steady. Relief surged through the room. The girl had a pulse. The shepherd finally relaxed, resting his head against her arm, eyes closing as though he had given every last ounce of strength to save her. For a moment, no one spoke. Even the most seasoned doctors stood in stunned silence. They had witnessed something they couldn't explain, an act that defied both science and logic. The ER, usually a storm of noise and command, fell eerily quiet. Doctors stood frozen, their eyes darting between the heart monitor and the German shepherd resting calmly against the girl. The rhythmic beeps on the screen confirmed what they had all seen. Life had returned when it should have been gone. One nurse whispered, almost to herself, "That's impossible." Another doctor shook his head, muttering, "No animal could do that." It wasn't chance, he knew what to do. The lead physician, a man with decades of experience, removed his gloves slowly. His voice was steady but filled with disbelief. "In 30 years, I've never witnessed anything like this." The parents rushed to their daughter's side, tears streaming as they stroked her hair. Their gratitude poured toward the shepherd as well, who wagged his tail weakly, still refusing to leave the girl's side. The father choked back sobs. He saved her. Our dog saved her. Even as the medical team worked to stabilize her, whispers rippled through the room. Was this instinct? Coincidence? Or something that went beyond science? Some shook their heads, unwilling to accept what they had witnessed. Others couldn't deny the evidence flashing on the monitor. The girl was alive because her dog had refused to let her go. Days later, the sterile walls of the hospital room held a different sound, soft laughter. The girl stirred awake for the first time, her frail voice calling a single word, her dog's name. Her parents leaned in, tears streaming as they reassured her, "He's right here. He never left you." At the sound of her voice, the shepherd lifted his head, tail thumping gently against the floor. He climbed onto the bed with careful steps, curling beside her as though guarding her once more. Doctors checked her vitals, shaking their heads in disbelief. "By all logic, she shouldn't be here," one murmured. "There's no medical explanation for what he did." Another whispered, "It wasn't medicine. It was loyalty." The girl's mother wiped her tears, looking at the team with gratitude. "You call it impossible. I call it love." Word spread quickly. Nurses, orderlies, and even strangers stopped by, eager to glimpse the dog who had done what no textbook could explain. To the girl, though, nothing had changed. Her hero had always been her best friend. That night, as the machines hummed softly, she fell asleep with her hand resting on his fur. Her parents watched in silence, knowing their daughter was alive because of him. Sometimes medicine saves lives. Sometimes machines keep hearts beating. But this story proves something greater. Sometimes it's the devotion of a dog that defies reason, challenges science, and rewrites destiny. And in that hospital room, one family learned a truth the world would never forget. Love can perform miracles.